Chimères is the sophomore album from Normandy, France-based melodic black metal band CÉNOTAPHE. We don't have to call them melodic black metal. That's kind of my own insert. They're a black metal band who take a lot of influence from what most people would describe as Franco-Finnish black metal. That just means that French and Finnish black metal really is the basal level of expression expected of their work in general. Though they pull a lot of their work from classics and inspiration, and you could liken their sound to a band like Fortress or Orlac, but for the most part, they bring their own sound and expression into each of their releases. I discovered this band not too long ago. I became a huge fan when they released Monte Verita back in 2020. It's been 5 years since then. They've worked on some side projects and done many other things, but from what they've said, they've been working on this record for some years now, and realizing it has produced, I think, one of the better black metal records of the year so far. So let's cut to a clip here. I'll talk a little bit about the meaning behind the album and just my own enjoyment of it, and that'll be it. I think it's interesting that CÉNOTAPHE have stated themselves as symbolists rather than romanticists, and I think that's an important distinction to make. There's certain levels to those definitions, and the way they approach art, what it means to them, and what they're trying to accomplish with it. There's a sense of bettering the self to all of their work, and it really runs in line with a certain thread of black metal in terms of its philosophical distinction. I think it's one of the most interesting aspects of their sound if you really want to get into their point of view on art in general. But when we're just talking about black metal and getting to it, I think if you're a fan of French black metal, some of the associated acts and the general scenes I've described, you'll understand what this is. But what's most interesting about this second record is the feeling that it conveys, as well as the different sounds and oeuvre that they bring to this record, which mounts on top of the previous one. It presents a different scene, a different experience, and generally expresses a different level of emotion, which is far less distant and conveys a lot of personal experience. I think overall, a lot of what this record does is evocative of pagan black metal in many aspects. The use of synthesizers and keyboards is a standout here. It's very different than the previous record in application, and it typically either provides atmospheric drift or accentuation of a melodic thread. And when the band focuses in on their comfort zone, which are these highly melodious guitar threads that involve a lot of inspired runs, that's really where they sound the most like themselves. But then there are different levels of expression coming from the vocalist, who's quite talented and expressive in his own way. But also the production values are changed. They're still raw as black metal should be on some aspect. They've polished some of their presentations so that all of the performances are audible and up to standard. They were on the previous record, but there's clarity here that allows for more layers. It makes for a different experience. As we're sort of falling back to earth in the throes of the first half of the album lyrically, and that means that there's a sense of sweeping movement that eventually mires itself back into civilization. And the effect of this is that their music becomes a little bit more complex, a little bit more conflicted in its statements. But really, the big thing here is the guitar work as it develops and becomes a little bit more congested towards the end with a couple of longer form pieces. And they break this up by not necessarily jamming out, but presenting more atmospheric and ambitious pieces further down the road. The feeling I was left with after listening to this record was that there was a clear destination, there's a clear starting point. It is a continuation of the previous conversation, sort of inverting the perspective a little bit in a way where it becomes more personal. And while that's an important aspect of it, I think most people who listen to black metal are really just there for the sound, the reference. And in that case, I think that the successful use of melody and the complex compositions on the guitar really are the standout here. I think the vocal performances are different. They're shrieking less often, but they're no less intense. And the drumming in particular is always fine on all of these releases from this artist and related projects. So there's more than just a standard met here for performance, but really was expressivity that reined me in and had me taking a closer look. For me, this is a very high recommendation. This is one of my favorite records of the year so far. I would definitely recommend it very highly, and go ahead and check that out for yourself if you will. Again, the review is on the website. Check that out too and see what you think.